The biggest illusion controlling your life may be the reality you see every day. Your eyes are showing you what already happened, not what is possible. If you continue allowing your current circumstances to define what you believe, you will keep recreating the same reality again and again. But the moment you learn to trust the unseen, something powerful begins to shift. Your imagination becomes the doorway to a new version of yourself, and the life you desire starts forming within before it ever appears outside. Your eyes do not always reveal the complete truth. They only show you the result of past beliefs, old assumptions, and thoughts that have already taken form. When you allow your senses to become the only judge of reality, you remain trapped by what has already happened. But when you develop the courage to believe in what cannot yet be seen, you enter a new level of awareness where life can begin to transform around you. Think about this for a moment. When you look at me, you see a person standing before you. You see a body, hear a voice, and your senses immediately tell you, this is reality. But what if your senses are only showing you a small part of the greater truth? They are useful servants, but they are limited. They can describe what exists, but they cannot reveal what is waiting to be created. They can show you the present moment, but they cannot show you the endless possibilities hidden within your imagination. The unseen world is not less real than the visible world. In many ways, it is the source from which everything visible is created. Think about love. You cannot touch it, weigh it, or place it under a microscope, yet love can completely transform your life. It can change your emotions, your choices, your confidence, and the way you experience the world. Something invisible creates visible changes. This is the truth many people forget. The most powerful forces in life cannot be seen with physical eyes. Your thoughts, beliefs, imagination, and feelings are invisible movements within you, but they are constantly shaping the reality you experience. Your senses can tell you what is hot or cold, what something looks like, or what is happening around you, but they cannot tell you what is possible. They cannot reveal your future or understand the unlimited creative power of consciousness. Right now, countless invisible signals surround you. Radio waves, communication frequencies, and information streams move through the space around you, yet your eyes cannot see them and your ears cannot hear them. But the moment you turn on a radio or television, those invisible signals become a visible and audible experience. What changed? The signals were already there. You simply connected with the right frequency. Your consciousness works in the same way. Your imagination is the instrument that allows you to connect with unseen possibilities. But most people make the mistake of allowing their current circumstances to decide what they can achieve. They look at their bank account and say, I am struggling. They look at their reflection and say, nothing is changing. They look at their situation and believe, this is my permanent reality. Without realizing it, they become prisoners of what their senses report. Many people lose their power because they assume that what they see today is the final truth. But the physical world is not the beginning. It is the reflection of what has already been accepted within consciousness. What you see around you is the result of previous thoughts, feelings, and assumptions. It is yesterday's imagination appearing in physical form. Imagination, however, is the doorway to what has not yet appeared. It is the creative force that plants the seed of tomorrow's reality. Your senses are like historians because they only record what has already happened, but imagination is like a vision of the future because it allows you to experience something before it becomes visible. To stop being controlled by appearances, you must make your inner world more powerful than your outer circumstances. You must see your desired reality so clearly within yourself that it becomes more real than temporary conditions. I remember a young man who dreamed of becoming a successful musician. At that time, everything around him seemed to prove the opposite. He performed in small places, struggled financially, lived in a simple apartment, and constantly saw evidence of limitation. Every day, his senses reminded him of what he lacked. But instead of allowing appearances to control him, he began creating a new reality within his imagination. He imagined the life he desired. He felt the emotions of success before the world could reflect it back to him, because the invisible always comes before the visible. Every creation begins as an idea. Every achievement begins as a belief. Every transformation begins as an unseen movement within the mind. The world you experience today was once only a thought, a feeling, or an assumption held within consciousness. Do not allow temporary appearances to convince you that your future is limited. Your eyes can only show you where you have been, but your imagination reveals where you can go. When you learn to trust the unseen, you stop being controlled by the past and begin becoming the creator of your future. This young man discovered a truth that transformed the way he understood life. He realized that his present circumstances were not a definition of his future. They were only the reflection of previous thoughts, beliefs, and imaginal experiences that had already appeared. If his past imagination had created his current reality, then a new imagination could create a completely different future. Every night before sleep, he entered a world within his mind that seemed impossible to others. Lying in his small apartment, he imagined himself standing in a grand concert hall, holding a conductor's baton, hearing thousands of people applauding, feeling the excitement of success, and experiencing the pride of being recognized for his talent. Although his physical surroundings showed an ordinary room, his imagination showed him a life of achievement and greatness. What mattered was not what his eyes could see, but what felt most real within him. He made this inner experience so vivid, emotional, and detailed that his imagination became stronger than the evidence around him. Eventually, his external world began to reflect the reality he had already accepted internally. Through unexpected opportunities and connections, he moved closer to his dream, becoming an assistant conductor for a major orchestra and later performing around the world. This was not just fantasy. It was the power of consciousness in motion. However, when you begin practicing this principle, your senses will challenge you. They will remind you that nothing has changed and show you the same circumstances, but you must remember that your senses can only reveal what already exists, not what is still being created. Your senses are like someone judging a painting before the artist has finished creating it. They see only the unfinished image, never the masterpiece that is still forming. I discovered this truth during my own journey when I was young and living in Barbados. I had a deep desire to travel to New York and study spiritual knowledge, but everything around me suggested it was impossible. I had no money, no connections, and no clear path forward. Every day, my surroundings repeated the same message. This is where you are, and this is where you must remain. But I refused to allow my senses to decide my destiny. Instead, each night I imagined myself already in New York. I saw the buildings, felt the atmosphere, heard the sounds of the city, and experienced the feeling of already belonging there. My imagined reality became so powerful that it felt more real than my physical environment. Others believed I was simply dreaming and ignoring reality, but I understood something deeper. Imagination is not an escape from life. It is the force that shapes life. When you accept an idea completely and live from that inner state, circumstances begin to organize themselves around it. Soon, unexpected opportunities appeared, doors opened, and the reality I had carried within became my external experience. Moving beyond your senses does not mean denying the present. It means understanding that the present is only a reflection of what has already been created. The unseen world within you is where every new possibility begins. Before you sleep tonight, choose something you desire and imagine yourself already experiencing it. Do not see yourself searching for success. See yourself already successful. Feel the satisfaction of meaningful work, hear words of appreciation, and experience the confidence of having achieved your goal. If you desire love, do not imagine waiting for it. Imagine yourself already loved, valued, and deeply appreciated. Make your inner world so real that your imagination becomes stronger than your current circumstances, because the invisible always comes before the visible. Every reality begins within consciousness, and your imagination is the beginning of everything you will one day experience. Your senses are naturally attracted to details, not vague ideas. If you want to create a new reality within your mind, you must experience it with clarity. Do not simply imagine success as a distant dream. Feel the moment of holding the keys to your dream office, notice the feeling of walking across the floor, see the view from your window, and allow yourself to experience the pride and fulfillment of already becoming the person you desire to be. The same applies to wealth. Do not only imagine having money, imagine the peace, confidence, and freedom that come with it. Feel the security of knowing your needs are met, the confidence in your voice when financial worries disappear, and the joy of being able to support others without fear. When you repeatedly choose to believe in what cannot yet be seen, you begin to develop a deeper awareness beyond your physical senses. You start feeling your desired reality before it appears. recognizing the invisible connection between your current state and the life you are moving toward. The true test of belief is not how strongly you wish for something, but how naturally you can live from the feeling of already having it. When you are truly connected to the unseen reality, you no longer need constant proof from the outside world. A quiet confidence begins to grow within you, and your actions start coming from a new identity instead of desperation or doubt. A woman once discovered this principle while struggling as a single mother working multiple jobs just to survive. Every part of her physical world reminded her of limitation, but she decided to experiment with the power of imagination. Each night she imagined herself as a woman living in abundance. She did not dream about unrealistic miracles. She focused on the feeling of security, peace, and freedom. She imagined providing for her children without worry, making purchases without fear, and creating a future filled with opportunity. At first, everything around her seemed to challenge her belief, but she continued choosing the unseen over the visible circumstances. Over time, something within her began to transform. She carried herself with greater confidence, made decisions from a place of possibility, and naturally began acting like the person she had imagined becoming. Eventually, new opportunities appeared, her financial situation changed, and her outer world began reflecting the inner state she had accepted. The transformation did not feel like magic because she had already experienced it within herself before it appeared physically. Many people question whether believing in the unseen is simply self-deception, but history and science show us that many realities exist beyond ordinary perception. A microscope reveals worlds invisible to the eye, and a telescope reveals galaxies beyond human sight. Imagination works in a similar way. It allows you to connect with possibilities before they become visible. The unseen is not less real than what you can see. It is simply the beginning stage of what has not yet taken physical form. When you change the reality within your consciousness, your external world eventually begins to reflect that inner transformation. The invisible world of consciousness is the foundation from which every visible experience begins. When you learn to trust what cannot yet be seen, you are not escaping reality. You are connecting with the deeper source that creates your reality. Your present circumstances are only reflections of past thoughts, beliefs, and imaginations that have already taken form. What you accept and embody today becomes the experience waiting for you in the future. A man once came to Neville explanation, feeling defeated because of a health condition that doctors had declared permanent. Every day, his senses reminded him of pain, weakness, and limitation. He wondered how he could believe in perfect health when his own body seemed to prove the opposite. The answer was that he was focusing on the wrong thing. Instead of fighting his symptoms, he was encouraged to enter the feeling of already being healthy. He imagined strength, energy, and complete well-being until that inner state became more real to him than his physical condition. With consistent practice, something remarkable began to change. His senses told him he was an unhealthy person imagining wellness, but his consciousness revealed a different truth. Within his imagination, he was already the person he desired to become. Slowly, his inner identity became stronger than his outer circumstances. Over time, his symptoms improved, his energy returned, and his health transformed in ways that amazed those around him. But the greatest change was not only physical, it was the realization that he was never a victim of his conditions. He discovered that consciousness was more powerful than circumstances, and that what he believed within himself could become greater than what his eyes could see. Your senses are not the final authority of what is possible. They only show you what exists now, not what can exist tomorrow. You are not simply a body moving through life. You are consciousness experiencing and shaping the physical world. Everything around you once existed as an unseen idea before becoming visible. The home you live in, the objects you use, and every creation made by humanity began first in imagination. The same is true for your dreams, desires, and deepest wishes. They are not meaningless thoughts, they are possibilities waiting to be expressed through you. Do not allow your senses to convince you that something is impossible simply because it has not appeared yet. Make your imagination clear, powerful, and emotionally alive until your inner reality becomes stronger than your current circumstances. The invisible creates the visible, and when you learn to live from the feeling of already having what you desire, your outer world begins to align with your inner state. You are not controlled by what you see. You have the power to choose what becomes real. Believe in what cannot yet be seen. Live from the feeling of fulfillment and allow the reality within your consciousness to become the world around you. Your thoughts, beliefs, and inner state are shaping the path ahead, and the unseen greatness within you is waiting to be revealed. The invisible world of consciousness is the true beginning of every visible experience. What you see around you today is the result of previous thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions that have already taken form. When you learn to trust what cannot yet be seen, you are not ignoring reality. You are connecting with the deeper force that creates reality. Your imagination is not just fantasy, it is the place where new possibilities are formed before they appear in the physical world. A man struggling with a serious health condition discovered this truth when he stopped focusing only on his symptoms and began living from the feeling of perfect health. Instead of allowing his circumstances to define him, he imagined himself as strong, energetic, and completely well. Over time, his inner transformation became reflected in his physical experience. He realized that consciousness was more powerful than his conditions and that his beliefs could influence the direction of his life. Your senses are only tools that show you your current circumstances. They do not decide your future. Everything that exists in the physical world was once an invisible idea in someone's imagination before becoming real. Your dreams, desires, and visions are not meaningless wishes but possibilities waiting to be expressed. The unseen world of thought and belief is the source, while the visible world is simply the reflection. When you choose to live from the feeling of already having what you desire, you begin to align yourself with that reality. Instead of being controlled by what you see, you become aware of your power to create change from within. Believe in what is not yet visible, strengthen your imagination, and allow your inner state to guide your outer experience. The reality you hold in consciousness today can become the world you experience tomorrow. Every meaningful change begins in the unseen. Before a building rises, it exists as a blueprint. Before a musician performs, the song first lives in imagination. Before success appears in the world, it is rehearsed privately in the mind. In the same way, your life begins to shift when you stop waiting for the outside world to give you permission to feel different. If you wait for money before feeling secure, love before feeling worthy, or success before feeling capable, you place your inner state in the hands of the reflection instead of the source. But the reflection never leads, it only follows. Your assumptions quietly shape what you notice, what you expect, and how you respond. Someone who expects rejection will find evidence of it everywhere, while someone who assumes they are valued will move through the same situation with a completely different experience. This is why changing your life is never only about changing circumstances. It is about changing the identity that interprets those circumstances. If you have been seeing yourself as someone who struggles, someone who is overlooked, or someone who never catches a break, that identity will keep organizing your reality around the same familiar outcomes. The mind mistakes familiarity for truth, which is why old patterns can feel comfortable even when they are limiting you. That is why persistence matters. Not persistence in forcing the world to change, but persistence in returning to the version of yourself you choose to become. Each morning offers a quiet decision. Will you wait for evidence before feeling hopeful, or will you become the source of that feeling first? The people who create extraordinary lives are not the ones who wait for visible confirmation. They are the ones who continue believing while the evidence is still invisible. Like a farmer who trusts the seed before the harvest appears, you must protect your imagination, nourish it, and remain faithful to it. Because the day you stop letting circumstances define who you are is the day everything begins to change. Now think about the version of yourself that already exists beyond your current circumstances. Not the version who hopes things will improve someday, but the version who already wakes up with quiet confidence, who no longer measures worth by temporary conditions, and who understands that peace is not something the world gives, it is something carried within. That person is not a fantasy. They are a possibility waiting for your attention, because every identity begins as imagination before it becomes habit. You did not become who you are in a single moment. It happened through repetition. Every emotion left an impression. Every belief repeated often enough became part of your self-image. Eventually, what began as "I feel anxious" became "I am anxious." And what began as "I experienced failure" became "I am someone who fails." Experiences should inform you, but they should never define you. The moment you allow temporary circumstances to become permanent identity, you begin building tomorrow with yesterday's limitations. Many people unknowingly spend years introducing themselves to life through old stories. I've never been lucky. Relationships never work for me. I'm always struggling. I'm just not the confident type. These sound like observations, but they function like instructions. Every time they are repeated, the subconscious treats them as familiar truths. Your mind is remarkably obedient. It continually asks one silent question. If this is who I am, what experiences would make that identity feel consistent? Without realizing it, you begin noticing opportunities that match your assumptions while overlooking opportunities that challenge them. This is why two people can stand in the same room and leave with completely different futures. One notices possibilities, the other notices obstacles. Neither is lying. Both are simply seeing through different assumptions. That is why self-awareness is one of the greatest forms of freedom. The moment you become aware of your dominant assumptions, you are no longer completely controlled by them. You can finally ask a different question. What if this story is not the truth? What if it is only a habit? Habits can change. Stories can change. Identity can change. The human mind is far more flexible than most people believe. New pathways can be created. New emotional responses can be practiced. New expectations can become familiar. In other words, your future is not imprisoned by your past. It is shaped by what you repeatedly accept today. So ask yourself one simple question. If the person you dream of becoming were living your life right now, how would they think about today's challenge? How would they speak? How would they walk into the room? How would they treat themselves when no one else was watching? Begin there. Not tomorrow. Not after circumstances improve. Now. Because the identity you repeatedly practice today is already becoming the reality you will one day call your life. Think about how much of your life has been directed by what you believed was possible. Long before you achieved anything, you formed an opinion about whether you could. Long before someone entered your life, you carried expectations about how people would treat you. Long before opportunities arrived, you had already decided, often unconsciously, whether they were meant for someone like you. Those quiet decisions became invisible boundaries, not because life created them, because your imagination accepted them. Every limitation first existed as an agreement within the mind, and every breakthrough begins when that agreement is replaced. This is why your inner conversations matter so much. Throughout the day, you are constantly speaking to yourself even if you are not aware of it. You replay old memories, imagine future conversations, anticipate outcomes, and quietly predict what is about to happen next. Those mental conversations are not meaningless. They are rehearsals. They are preparing you emotionally for the future you expect. If every internal conversation ends in disappointment, your nervous system becomes familiar with disappointment before life even has a chance to surprise you. But imagine changing those conversations. Imagine hearing yourself say, "Everything is unfolding in my favor."